Hello and welcome to the Bipolar Baby Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Nicole Barrera. At the age of 24, I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder. That is the day I was reborn. In this podcast, we'll explore what it's like living with bipolar 2 through my own personal experience and overall mental health struggles. Get ready to get personal. I'll be sharing tools that have helped me get through the tough times, as well as the wonderful experiences I've had through my self-love journey and spiritual healing. Together, we will develop new healthy habits, hold each other accountable, and put our mental health first. My intention is to shine a light and release any stigma there is around mental health. Let's create a community where we feel safe and open to have conversations about our mental health. Together, we can grow, thrive, and shine. Let's dive in. Eek! Welcome back. I was just sitting in the living room and I thought to myself, wow, I need to work on a podcast. Not need, but I would like to. And then I realized there was so much silence in the house, and I was like, now would be the perfect time to record. Even though I know at any moment Brian is probably going to come home from working out and I'll be like, dang. But you know what? I'll just pick up where I left off when he comes back or whatever. So I just wanted to give a little life update. You guys, I went shopping for the first time in forever. And partly because I don't really have my part-time job anymore. I am fortunate enough where Brian is like the income person of the household. And I just kind of do like odds and ends. I have always had, I don't even want to get into it right now just because I have a big opportunity in the works. So I'm not going to talk about that. My past life story, I'm rewriting my story into somebody that thrives in an amazing work environment. And I feel like I've already said too much. Like I was saying, I went shopping for the first time and it was funny because it was actually with a gift card that Brian gave me and it was for Christmas, I believe. He gives me gifts from Yuki too. So that's fairly sweet. But it's funny because I found $40 this weekend in one of my cabinets while I was cleaning. And then I found this other Nordstrom gift card and I was like, oh my God, it's funny because I've been manifesting abundance and putting it out there and really being open to receiving it. And this is the thing when we put something out into the universe or pray on it or anything like that. But it's funny because we don't know where it's going to come from, right? At all. And that's the thing. We have to be open to where it's going to come from. So we can't have all our sights set on one outcome of it's going to be with this new job or, winning the lottery or something. It can literally come from anywhere. And it's funny because I realized that I almost hide money and gift cards for myself. So that when I am cleaning, I kind of forget about them. And then I stumble across them and I'm like, woohoo, free money or gift cards. And it's awesome because it comes to me at the perfect time. And I just kind of store them away like a little squirrel with nuts, I guess. It's my harvest season and now it's my let's eat and get stuff done season. Anyways, that was a really random thing. I feel like I sometimes am not prepared for when I come here because I normally don't have notes. And that is also the case for today. There is an episode that I'm going to be recording maybe even later today, but it's going to be a really in-depth episode because it has a lot of notes. I have 15 pages worth of notes for this upcoming episode, and it has to deal with the lens that Hollywood has for people with bipolar disorder. And I think it's really important to share because it's something that has really helped my life and relationships in my life. And it's just like kind of a visual view on how Hollywood sees it, but also how maybe we can see it or relate to it, and things that we don't really relate to as well. So, anyways, with this shopping thing that I did, I had a great time. It's funny because this time last year, I would not even like leave the house. I would get really anxious, and we had moved into a new place. I don't even know. This is our second year living here, but when we first moved here, I had a lot of anxiety about driving in the area because where I came from, things were really set up differently. It was more of like countryside, but with big, shopping centers in between. And here, it's a lot of neighborhood. It's almost like city living, but in like a small town. So, what I mean by that is like a lot of stop signs, a lot of people walking, and you have to just like be on high alert rather than just like regular alert when you're driving. So, yeah, it was really hard for me to leave the house. Brian was the one who was doing most of the driving, and it really took a lot for me to get out of my comfort zone. We also moved in the winter time where, it was just so much snow and cold and doesn't even make you really want to leave in the first place. So, thank God for Brian being like the amazing person that he is and never really being bothered that he was the one who would be driving everywhere. And it wasn't until I had like a purpose to leave the house, I think, that really helped me leave. So it would be like I intentionally had to go somewhere. And that's what would get me out of the house because I wasn't like in my mind about, oh my gosh, it was just like having a purpose, right? Like I realized when I have a purpose, I set out to finish that purpose. It's kind of like having a task on the to-do list and you don't really have time to think about getting it done. You kind of just have to do it. And I mean, maybe that's me, but I feel like in general, that's kind of what a to do list is. Although back in the day, if I had a to do list, I would literally sit there for hours thinking about how I would do that to do list, and time would just fly by, and I would be sitting on my bed still like 5 hours later because I just did not have the mental capacity to even understand like where to start. And that was like a really hard time of my life. Back in, I don't even know, like maybe when I was 20 years old, 21 years old. It's definitely when I wasn't diagnosed yet with bipolar disorder. I think they thought I had like depression. So that was like a really hard time for me. When you're not diagnosed with the right thing, you are left with being on the wrong medication and it not helping. And it's really such a struggle when that's happening because you think like you're gonna get better, but it just like doesn't. And it's okay when that happens. It's just about keeping the course because there is another side to it and it might, take time and it requires a lot of patience. And I know that's something that's not easy while you're going through the process, but I want you to know that there is another side. There is another side, and as common as the phrase is, like, it will get better, like, it's a phrase for a reason, guys. Like, it will get better because it does get better. You just have to stay the course. You have to trust the process. Everything happens for a reason. If I hadn't gone through all those really traumatic experiences, I would not be here sharing my story. And that's why I am here sharing my story for people that are maybe going through the same thing or know somebody that's going through the same thing and needs to have that patience with them and realize that they are actually really struggling. And I feel like I'm going to go in all different circles and whatnot. But yeah, this is the point of this. I don't have notes because I definitely end up saying what I need to say in these episodes. And I just want to go back and acknowledge that. Please have patience with people that are going through this. And please have patience with yourself, the people that are going through this. It's actually funny that I bring this up because before I was feeling like the excitement to be able to go shopping, I had a really hard week before that. And that really ties into the past of, not being able to do things when I was misdiagnosed, I should say. And those times are really hard because you're just like sitting there, and this is a really good representation of both sides of the coin, right? In the past and it reflecting now. Even as I sit here and I'm like really over analyzing this in my brain because I have not eaten today. It is 1:30 in the afternoon and all I've had is coffee. Like I should probably take care of myself and come back. But it feels right to be here, so I'm going to continue on being here and say that I think Brian's home, so we might actually come back to the drawing board later. But at least I feel like I have some points to touch on at this point, which is leaving the house, being misdiagnosed, the in-between of it all, and coming out on the other side. So that's a little preview, and I will be back after I eat. Okay, thank you. See you soon. Okay, I am back. I am well fed, and it has been a good couple hours. It's 5:30 now, and we had a friend come visit briefly. I had an amazing meal that I made. Honestly, you guys, this was like better than going out to eat. I never thought I would say that, but I'm saying that. And yeah, I was just listening to what I came up with in the moment earlier there. And that was definitely, I love just like having a conversation with you guys. I love coming here and just saying whatever on my mind. And honestly, I feel like getting some feedback, so maybe I'll put it in the show notes of just if you enjoy episodes like this where I'm kind of just touching on certain points and it all kind of connecting in the end, or if you would prefer more structured types of podcasts where I do have notes and kind of just hit on points and topics that I have planned out. And I definitely have those coming up, but there's just something about sitting here with you guys, like I said, in the moment and just being able to like converse and talk, and it just feels so natural. And I'm, like I said, I don't know, things that bring me joy, that's what I do. This is what brings me joy, and I hope it brings you joy too. So I took some notes on what I was saying earlier just so I could stay accountable for what I was talking about. And the notes that I left off with that we're going to pick back up on are leaving the house, being misdiagnosed, and the in-between of it all while coming out on the other side. So, with leaving the house, it has been so amazing getting to get past the feeling of fear. Something that has always stuck with me is fear is false evidence appearing real. Fear is false evidence appearing real. And I forgot what self-help book I learned that from. I'm just a hub of wellness and self-help books, and sometimes it's hard to remember the source of it all, so forgive me with that part. And also, If you do remember any of these sources that I am quoting, please go ahead, let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram. I would love that. Bipolar Baby Podcast. And yeah, so moving past the fear of that false evidence, that means you're creating this thing in your mind, like a statement, right? Like, oh, it's scary out there, or, this could happen, or, I'm not going to be able to find the parking lot, or where's the front door? Stuff like that anxiety in the back of my mind. And it's funny, I never thought I had anxiety, but it kind of just comes with the territory of what my brain does at this point. That's where I would just get freaked out with whatever was not even real. And it was creating my own story in my mind, right? I was creating the own evidence in my head that these things were going to manifest. And why pick a bad thought when we can pick a good one? And it's easier said than done. I understand. And this is honestly a muscle. These tools, this way of thinking is a muscle that we need to continue to not even work on, kind of just play with, like life is about playing, having fun. It doesn't have to be, work, work, work. Like I sometimes see life as a video game, and it's kind of just like different tasks and levels that you have to beat, different strengths you acquire, different learning abilities, and different bosses you have to beat, like different boss levels. I also picture it sometimes in my mind that we create these own barriers in our lives where it's like you're a video game character, and almost like in The Sims where you have your home and you can only walk a certain path in your like living space. And otherwise, when you get to the end of it's funny when you get like when you're trying to walk and you keep walking, but you can't, and you're literally just like walking into like the imaginary wall that the video game has created for you. That's sometimes what I feel like I personally do, or maybe you or anybody in life also does. We kind of confine ourselves into these little bubbles of comfort where it's just funny because, it's like there's so much more world out there, but we limit ourselves to only staying within the certain radius of our comfort, like I said. This is something that I've been really, really interested in exploring recently. And I'm not gonna lie, even though I've left the house and feel comfortable doing that, I still kind of get like that, get a little comfort in the places I've been often. And I feel like I maybe need to start branching out some more too. And maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll make a little homework assignment for myself. And even saying this is scary. But I'm like, with The Artist's Way, that book that I've been reading with the morning pages and stuff. Well, every week you're supposed to go on an artist date. And an artist date is basically a solo date that you take with yourself somewhere. And I'm going to lovingly allow myself to go past the barrier. I'm going to lovingly step out of my comfort zone. That is going to be what I'm holding myself accountable for in this coming week. And hold me accountable, guys. I will report back. I don't know where I'll go, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna push past my comfort zone and explore someplace new. And we'll leave it at that with the leaving the house part. I feel like that really covered some good real estate. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so now we're gonna go, let's see, the second bullet point was being misdiagnosed. So, oh gosh, I feel like this is the part of the story where I want to go in a little deeper in the future about how I got here with the real diagnosis that I have. But being misdiagnosed, like I said earlier, with not being on the right medicine and thinking you're getting better, but the thing is, you technically are still on your way to getting better. Because the first sign is acknowledging that there's something going on within you that doesn't feel right, or you just feel like life could be easier. Like, why is it easy for all these other people? Why does it look like, at least, that it's easy for other people? Why does their life look so effortless and yours looks just so much pain, hurt, confusion, and like mistake making, Like, why is it so hard for me to make decisions, and for them it doesn't seem that way? And the thing is, just because it's like that right now doesn't mean it will always be like that. I remember once when I was in therapy, I was having a really hard time. And I told my therapist, my sisters seem to be doing so well. Like, everything is working out for them. Like, why isn't it the same for me? Like, why can't I have that kind of life? And I remember my therapist saying, like, you know what, Erica, it's not always going to be like this. She's like, and your sisters will have like times in the future where they also don't feel so great, or things might not be working in their favor. Like, and it's not to say that she was like, wishing harm on them. She's just saying, like, everybody has a hard time in life. Like, it's not just you. And she's right. There are times where I'm like, I feel like I'm doing great. And then I do see my loved ones not being in the space that I once saw them in. And that's when we're here to help them too, But yeah, going back to it, it's just like, you are getting better. You are taking this into your own hands. It's all part of the journey. And as long as you are continuing to be on it, it's going to get better. And it already is getting better. It already is getting better. These are things I say to myself, everything is working just as it should. Everything is exactly as it's meant to be. Even if you don't feel that way, choose to believe that it is. Be willing to believe that everything is working out for the greater good for you and everybody else involved. Everything is working out for you and everybody else involved, for the best of everyone involved. And it was in that in between where there was so much confusion, but I chose to keep the course. I chose to keep surrounding myself with books that were, in the meantime, going to help me mentally stay in the most stable place that I could. And some of those books were The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. Those are two books that really helped me at that time. I'm trying to think. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. That one took it to a whole nother level. That one was just wow. That one really helped me a lot. And it's funny because, not gonna lie, there's only so many self-help books that you can read at a time. And what's important that I realized and learned on my spiritual journey is it doesn't matter how many self-help books you read, you have to implement the things that you learn in these books, because otherwise none of that is going to stick with you. So I would even recommend, after 1 or 2, like, really implement the tools that they recommend in the books. Like, you gotta live it. You have to live it in order to learn from it. You gotta live it to learn it. But yeah, it comes to a point where you're like, okay, like, pause button. Another great thing about when I was reading these books is I would always write on Post-it notes different things that really stuck out to me, different things that I needed to just see over and over again. And I would have sticky notes all over my walls, in my books, in my bathroom, like on the mirror, by my bedside table, wherever I could see it, that's where I'd put it. And even creating like a sacred space, like an altar, is just so powerful of a peaceful area where you can just go to and reflect and meditate if you can. Meditation is very powerful, and I need to practice what I preach, and I definitely need to get back into my meditation practice. So let's hold that for another accountable thing that I'm going to do this week. So that's on the list, and I should probably write that down on a sticky note, and I will. Like I said about the spiritual self help books, it came to a time where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep reading these self help books. I felt like I needed to connect with somebody who had been on this journey. And that's when I found randomly, I don't know how I found this, but Brian Head Welch, I think that's his name. He's like the, I believe, guitarist from the band Korn, like Korn with a K. And you guys, I never liked Korn. Like I don't listen to Korn at all. But I will say his book, oh my gosh, I don't even remember. It's called With My Eyes Wide Open, I believe. Let me ask Google real quick. Hey Google, what is Brian Hedge Welch's book called?
Sorry, I don't understand.
This
But I
girl.
found something else. Do you want to know what is the book about Brian Head Welch?
Yes.
According to Wikipedia, Save Me From Myself. How I Found God, Quit Corn, Kicked Drugs, and Lived to Tell My Story is the autobiography of Korn guitarist Brian Head Welch.
Oh, yes. So Save Me From Myself. I think that was the first one that I read. Then he came out with the second one, which was also good, but I really liked that first one a lot. And, I'm not going to lie, some of it can be pretty risque because, I mean, the word's not even risque, but depending on the age range, they talk about things in his life, like they said, drugs, stuff like that. And, but for me, it was really helpful because it was just so interesting to be able to read somebody else's story and kind of get out of my own, and somebody that got on the right track at this point in their life and found God in their own way. I think he ended up going to like church where they like speak in tongues and stuff. And that's not really like my life, but hey, I honor whatever he was needing to do to heal himself. And as long as you're not hurting anybody, like in your, feeling you're in your healing journey and you're doing better and you're feeling healthy, then all the power to you. And I actually just looked it up on Google because I just wanted to like see where he was at this point in his life. And I think in 2021 it said that he actually realized that he had become kind of, I don't want to say the word obsessed, but almost like becoming somebody that was obsessed with his religion, right? Like almost, let me see, he said, I think I went too far with it. I got obsessed with it, just like I was obsessed with drugs. I believe I did for sure. And I had to come out of that and find normalcy because there's nothing worse than a freaking irritating religious person just shoving it down your throat. There's nothing worse than that. And end quote. I guess there was he had this documentary that I guess he really like touched on his religious side. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm just trying to say that I just started finding healing in other people's stories. I started having faith in my own story because I saw other people's stories that were on a much different level of what I was even experiencing. And, it's no competition. No, life is harder than anybody else's kind of like, we're not doing that. We're simply just touching on the fact that other people's stories can really help you heal yours too. And that was the in between of it all, in being misdiagnosed and still finding your way and still being open to that healing from wherever it needs to come from, including doctors and medicine. I always made a conscious decision when I knew something wasn't going right. I made an effort to just put it out into the world. And whether it was asking God, the universe, no. God, no. The universe, no. That you're ready. That you're ready for the next step. That you are ready to find the right doctor. And I know you might have said that before, and it's okay. It's a learning process. Like I said, it's a journey. But once you know something's not working, it's almost like you are saying a prayer, you know? You're really like, when I was looking for my therapist, I really made the conscious decision out loud, and I was like, I am ready to find the right therapist. I knew the therapist I was working with before her was just not working out anymore. It left me feeling like what am I doing here? I feel like nothing is helping. She was amazing for when it helped. It really was. It was perfect timing for when that was. And she actually helped. This is wild because she actually helped me find the doctor that diagnosed me with bipolar. So, how amazing is that, right? That even though this woman wasn't the right therapist for me at anymore at that time, she still played a huge part, like a ginormous part in my journey of finding the right doctor who diagnosed me with bipolar. And that's where I'm saying, guys, that's where I'm saying that it is so important that you trust the process, that you trust this journey. I know it might be frustrating. I know it might seem just like, oh, it's not worth it, like, oh my God, I understand. I've been there. I have been there. And sometimes I still go there. But I have come so far from that place. And I know that you can too if that's where you are. There's always another side. And back to what I was saying as far as ready to find the next therapist, right? The other funny thing is that same therapist that helped me find the right doctor who diagnosed me with bipolar is also the person who advised me to go on, I think it's like meetup.com, where it's just different meetups that people post with different similar interests. And I remember signing up for a couple that just sounded interesting. I never went to any, but I got the emails. So, another connect the dot of my life. One day, probably not even shortly after that, I asked God, the universe, to show me. That's the thing. Show me. Show me. It's like, I'm ready. Show me a therapist that was perfect for me. I was like, I'm ready. Show me the next, doctor, the next best doctor for my higher self, for my highest good. And I opened up one of the meetup emails, and I noticed that in one of the meetups it was at a therapist's office, like a communal area that this therapist had. She's a very spiritual teacher, and therapist. So it was interesting. I was like, oh, it's at this person's location, and this person happens to be like a therapist. So I did some research on this person just by looking at this email, and I gave them a call. And it's this action that is called inspired action. It kind of goes back to manifestation with ask, believe, receive. And in this case, I would say the belief I always really had, even though it's sometimes the hardest thing to believe if you don't have faith in that moment, you feel like kind of hopeless. So you don't feel like you believe. But the belief part is definitely the inspired action part. And me asking the question for a new therapist, or just asking God for a new therapist, to then believe, knowing that that therapist was out there for me, and then taking the inspired action to be able to receive. So in this case, the inspired action was to reach out to this therapist, and it ended up being the perfect fit. It was incredible. I spent years with this therapist, years, and they changed my life. And it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for all those little events leading up to that point. So, like I said, trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. And even if you don't trust the process, let yourself know that you are willing to believe that you can trust the process. Even if you're not ready to fully feel like you are able to trust this process, just lovingly allow yourself be willing to believe that you can trust the process. I believe that we have touched on all of the topics that we were going to touch on today. The leaving the house part, being misdiagnosed, the in between of it all, and coming out on the other side. And let's just circle back to the beginning of the episode where I talked about how I was going shopping and how far that I've come in my life to even just want to go out shopping again for the pure joy of going shopping. And I know shopping might not be, the highlight of everyone's life, or maybe they don't like shopping, but for me, I love to be able to touch like items. I love feeling fabric. I love feeling the accessories. I love just getting to walk around and look. And for those of who don't know, I actually went to school for fashion design. I did not graduate because I just knew deep down in my heart whatever I wanted to do in life or whatever I was going to succeed in, that I didn't picture myself going to a school and graduating, but being able to go was such a privilege, and my parents really wanted that opportunity for me. So I did go, and it was a wonderful experience. That's how I met a lot of my best friends now. And it's definitely made me who I am today, a big part of it. And yeah, when I was at the store, I just remember being like so proud of myself for being there. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun until it wasn't fun. And I was like, okay, I've been here for hours and nothing fits, like, or whatever. I just had the like love hate relationship at the end of it where I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home. Oh my gosh, you guys. And not only that, where I really honored myself this week and went shopping because I had such a hard week last week, I also really lovingly, not pushed, but I lovingly allowed myself to show up in ways that I didn't think I would be able to show up in this week. Besides, going to the store and honoring myself and the time that I had and the money that I actually had to be able to spend on myself. I remember, and this was another point that I wanted to make. I really wanted to make this point. This was the whole point of this beginning part of talking about going to the store. When I have, when we have a depressive kind of state, mania sometimes tends to follow that. And when I'm in a manic state, I tend to overspend. I shop. I will overspend. I won't even give it a second thought. I'll be like, but I'll just buy it anyway. And recently, I feel like I have done such a great job at honoring myself and not overspending. Like, I really think about it, you guys. I've been really wanting new jewelry, and when I was at the store, I'd look at things, I tried them on, and I was like, okay, I like this, but I don't love it. And even if I thought I loved it, I would put it on and, maybe wear it around a little bit, like just, around the corner and just see what it looked like. And I was like, I was like already sick of it by like 2 minutes, and I was like, yeah, I don't need this. Another thing I always think of is like, okay, what could I wear this piece with at home that I already have? And another thing that I just do is like, I remember a friend's dad once said, if you lived without it yesterday, then you can live without it again tomorrow and today, or in the future. And that always stuck with me because I was like, wow, that is very genius. Like, if you lived without it up until this point of your life, you can live without it in the future. I know that will always stick with me and that will always play in my mind. So I ended up trying on a lot of things and including these shoes that I had seen online like 2 hours before I went to the store, and I had my mind set, right? That I'm like, I'm gonna buy these shoes. I love these shoes. I'm gonna go see them at DSW. And I actually went to Nordstrom Rack before I went to DSW, and I saw the shoes at Nordstrom Rack, and I was like, okay, this is meant to be, you know? So I tried them on, and you know what? I didn't even like them. I thought they were so cute visually, but on my body, they didn't really do anything for me. I was like, this isn't like, I like these shoes, but on me, not so much. I went back and forth, you guys, for so long, maybe like an hour, just like trying on different shoes. And for me, that is kind of fun though. But anyway, besides the point, I left without the shoes. I got three items that can definitely be staples in the closet as I need to get rid of more things. Let's make that another let's make that another goal for myself this week, right? Another accountability, getting rid of clothes that I no longer need and donating them for others. So that, as well as my going someplace new out of my comfort zone. And what was the second one? You guys, the second one was meditate. I seriously had to go back and listen to the part where I talked about that. And I wrote it down on a post it note. Post it notes for the win. Go somewhere new, meditate, clean out closet. And those are the things that I'm going to hold myself accountable for. The three things that I held myself accountable for this week were having a job interview, and I did it. And in the same day, I did two other things that I didn't necessarily think I was going to make it to, but I did. And they were also Zoom calls that normally somebody like myself, just in general, not speaking for anybody else, but it's a lot, to show up on camera. And when I show up on camera, you guys, I am like fully myself. I can't not be an active listener and head nod and smile. And I just can't. I have, like, that's who I am. And I think I need to honor myself by like not doing that and just, sitting there and being in the room with everybody. But I just feel like rude not actively listening because I feel like if I was not performing, but if I was giving a speech or talk or hosting a class, like I would want people to actively listen to me too and seem genuinely interested. So I kind of just show up the way I would want others to show up for me. And the other things I attended were my fitness coach group sessions where we meet every other week together and just give updates on where we are. And it's like one of my favorite times to just be with other people that are on this health journey with me. And the one after that was something new for me. It was a bipolar sister circle, and I had never. I was so happy. I was so happy that I showed up. The whole theme of this month's get together was about spring cleaning, and not only physically, but like mentally, what we're, wanting to intentionally part ways with and what we want to bring more in. And I really enjoyed it. It was so great being able to join this community. And it was, I had let them know, I was like, you know what? I don't think I've ever been in a room with this many people that openly have bipolar. And just seeing each other was a beautiful reflection of who we were. Like, I saw myself so much in these people, and it felt so good to be seen and to see myself in another person of like who I truly am. And I was so proud of myself for fully showing up to each one of those things that day. It was, I'm not gonna lie, pretty taxing overall, but you guys, the reward of it all was so much better. And they were things I wanted to do. And when you want to do things, like when you actually do want to show up for the things that you want and you do them, oh boy, is it just amazing. And like even this, right? Like I know it's going to take time. This is a longer episode and it's going to take time to edit, but I love it. I love doing it. I love, 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 love being here with you all so much. I'm going to conclude this episode. I definitely feel like I said everything I needed to say today. And I hope you enjoyed the episode. I love you all so much. Let me know what you thought of this episode, and I will see you next time. All right, guys, I love you so much. Have a great rest of your day or a great evening, whatever one it is for you. I love you. Bye. With my full heart and gratitude, I want to thank every single one of you for tuning in today. May we always remember that we are pure light and love. Share this podcast with any friend or family member you feel called to, and we love to hear any takeaways or aha moments you got from this episode. Be sure to tag us at Bipolar Baby Podcast.